Let's get ready to rumble!
Here's Pete. We're just talking about you, hoping you'd come on, and there you are.
I just happened to notice.
Fantastic.
I'm having a conversation with somebody else on WhatsApp, and I noticed your conversation.
Well, fantastic. Great to have you, Pete. This is a bonus one. That's Mac hovering around in the background there. You guys carried the show the other night. Really appreciated that. It was incredible. So, look, if anyone's got anything they want to talk about, this is your moment. This is our safe space where us men can all talk together. I've got a couple of stories on here, but if anyone else has got any burning issues, this guy fell over again. And I think that's the thing that he tripped over.
Oh.
Poor sleepy Joe Biden. Will he still be the when's the next election? 2020, is it 24?
Yeah.
Next year. Time's gone so quickly. Can't believe it.
Indeed.
He's nearly served his first term as president.
It seems clear to me someone else is pulling the strings. He's not really in control.
Is it Kamala?
No, I don't think it's her either.
There's theories that apparently, if you look at it, his earlobe from 10 years ago doesn't look the same. Like it hangs, and then nowadays it's like his earlobe is stuck to his cheek. So it doesn't even seem like it's the same person. There's theories that he's either cloned or
maybe he's been doing a lot of jiu-jitsu.
They said no, it's not like that. Or Jim Carrey's wearing a mask and pretending to be him. that's that.
Jim Carrey's wearing a mask. Do you really think that that's not the real Joe Biden? What do you think, Pete? Is that the real one?
Well, in terms of people being really who they are, that opens a huge can of worms for me in terms of.
Go on, it's Freaky Friday. Let's open it. Who else is not who they really are?
Hillary. Remember, she had that little kind of freak. They said that was a clone having a breakdown because there was one time Hillary was having they exited around from the back door. I don't know if you lot saw that, and she was like shaking and she was like having like seizures, and they were trying to hold her up against the did you not see this?
Okay, so Hillary Clinton hasn't been replaced with another person. She's been replaced with an android.
No, well, it's another. It's a lookalike. The thing is, there's pictures of her and Bill Clinton when
it was the tribute
when she came out of the hospital, and she
Craig Davis.
Bill, she was up to like Bill's shoulder, but in other pictures, when you look at her, she's up to Bill's ears. Like, so there are these.
We are taller. We are taller in the morning, Matt.
But there are these discrepancies. That was in the middle of the day, by the way. There's these discrepancies.
She woke up late.
I saw a speech, a TV interview with Hillary Clinton, and I could have sworn it was a deep fake video. I think it was, and I saw another one from Adam Schiff as well, and I thought that's not really him. That's just been that's just a fake one. And to show that the technology is so good, somebody created a fake interview between Joe Rogan and Sam Altman, who is, I think, associated with crypto. I'm not sure. And it was a completely fake interview, but the computer software was so sophisticated, like these filters that you find on your phone, that it was fairly convincing. So
you can ask AI right now. There's the Chat GPT and other AI technology that there's out there. You can actually ask them to create have Tupac interview Donald Trump, literally, and it can create not just the voice but the actual picture as well. So you can actually see it in full color video. So the technology is there now. So even they're talking about these days, the new scam is because all they need is a snip clip of your video, and they'll get your voice. And then they can call up your family members making out as if you're in trouble and you're stuck and you need to transfer so money into they can literally, and there's been scams that is happening at this very moment like that using this AI technology. So it is sophisticated. I can't deny that.
And a few weeks ago, David Icke, in his 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning show, said that he had heard rumors that there is real technology being researched about imposing somebody's consciousness on somebody else.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that as well.
So, for example, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So, for example, if I'm Pete and I've got Pete's DNA, Pete's body, and Pete's memories in my soul or my brain or wherever it is, and they've got the technology to impose somebody else's consciousness to push my soul to one side so that the new consciousness has my memories, my body, my DNA, my personality, but it's not me. Like that line in one of the Pink Floyd songs, there's somebody in my head, and it's not me. So I think eventually this is absolutely lethal. And I've seen, I've had a couple of very strange experiences which make me suspect it might be true. For example, I was visiting a friend in Summertown in North Oxford a couple of years ago, and we were just chatting away all afternoon. And at one stage, I was just looking at her, and I thought, that's not Hillary, that's somebody else. I mean, it looks a little bit like her, but it's not her.
Hillary Clinton.
No, my friend called Hillary.
Oh. Okay.
So this idea of someone's consciousness being pushed to one side and being replaced by something else, I wonder if they can do that now.
Yeah, I can't tell you.
Various political reasons.
I've looked into studies. It falls back onto, I don't know if you've looked into, was it sensory deprivation tanks and the things that they do, because it falls under extra sensory. It's kind of clairvoyancy sort of thing, but at the same time, or extra sensory perception. But it would mean that you would have to concentrate on astral projecting yourself, kind of thing. So this is where you'd have to go into a sensory deprivation tank, where all your senses are taken away, from like stripped from your hearing, seeing, touching, smelling, even feeling. Like you're put in a cool water, so you always got that same temperature as well. So they go deep about it, but you got to realize, I think you can ultimately reach that stage if you're in a trance-like state.
And they do that to 11 in Stranger Things.
I mean, there's also another program, Fringe. They do something similar. Exactly. Yeah, Fringe is and that's Dr. Bell when he goes, he goes into Olivia's body or something. He appears and that's after he dies. So it is possible. I mean, I do believe, because I did do similar experiments with my ex-girlfriend, for example. I used to say to her, let's touch upon a topic and watch it be on top of the news or something. And then 2 days later, when we discussed it, she show up with a newspaper headline what we discussed. And I was like, see? And I go, let's take this matter further. I go, why don't you go to sleep, not tonight, but just random night, so I don't know what it is. And then with the intention of me calling you tomorrow. And this is how I showed her that like we can connect our consciousness together.
Wow.
So, and she did that. No, she did
that. That's unbelievable. I can't believe you had a girlfriend. Joking. I'm joking.
I call that IWC. Instantaneous.
Sorry, bro. I hope.
No, it was a mutter. You're right. She wasn't a girlfriend. It was a mutter. So it was a wifey.
I hope you were happily married at the time.
I was.
I call that IWC, instantaneous wormhole communication, or Albert Einstein called it the spooky effect, or non-causation, or telepathic communication, or
spooky action at a
quantum tunneling.
Yeah.
Owen Keeling is saying the lunatic is in your head. Of course, we know what lunatic means. Lunar, coming from the moon. And the sun is here. I talk about the moon, and then the sun shows up.
Subhanallah. My name in Persian means young moon. Just to say.
Young moon. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Reverend Moon of the Unification Church as a young boy.
Reverend Moon. Yeah. And the word for like mono, meaning one, it comes from the moon, and solo, meaning on your own, comes from solar, comes from the sun. So these words that mean singular
But
come from the sun and the moon.
word was lunar, wasn't it? Isn't it lunar?
Yeah, lunar, lonely. If you're lonely, you're on your own. You're like the moon. Someone was saying
moon
they
is
do
also
say this.
related to month.
Yeah, moon, month,
Because we used
exactly.
to have lunar months all over the world. You know, the Celtic zodiac has 13 months before it changed to 12 months.
The Gregorian calendar, yeah.
3,000 years
So
ago.
what's the missing star sign then?
Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus.
I haven't got the pronunciation right, but there's a little bit of a constellation on the plane of the ecliptic between Scorpio and Sagittarius. It's called something like Ophiuchus.
Wow.
So I don't know if that's the 13th sign, but it's the only space on the zodiac where the zodiac signs aren't covering the line. It's this other.
Put that in your horoscope and smoke it. The snake and man. That might be the symbol. Well, look, Simon Hindmarsh, if you're still in the chat, I know you'll know about this topic that I'm going to put up there. The lobby trying to do a Jeremy Corbyn
Sorry, can you move the comment
on Roger Waters? Yeah.
To do with the Holy Land, I saw an incredible interview with a lady who lives in Haifa.
Okay.
And she was very in touch with the local people there.
And Haifa is inside the state of Israel, and it's quite a mix.
That's where the Sahel Center is, isn't it?
Yeah, near Lebanon, yeah, just over the border.
In the north, yeah, in the north.
So this lady was saying she was in touch with the local people of Haifa, and she said that the number of people, even quite keen Zionists in the Holy Land, who are now saying to themselves, hang on a minute, the mainstream narrative that we're hearing on the TV, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. And even quite enthusiastic Zionists are questioning the whole narrative of the ruling elite and beginning to look at the alternative views. So maybe
the thing is, I mean, Julian knows my opinion on this matter. Yeah, I feel that they deserve a land either way. But I've been through it before, haven't I, with you? Like because Islamically we believe Abraham left his son Ishmael in Saudi Arabia. That's the Islamic belief, right? So
it wasn't called Saudi Arabia at the time.
No, but where the black box is where apparently he was put. So my understanding is that's one way of them saying, look, that's where your attention should be, to the Arab-speaking community, should we say? And I believe that's what we should. And also, when you look back, Moses, when they say Jabal al-Lawz is the mountain where he got the 10 commandments, right? Again, when he crosses over from Egypt, he crosses over the Red Sea into Saudi Arabia, because if you look, that's where it is. So it also makes sense. Again, Saudi Arabia is the hot place for Arab-speaking people. I mean,
Saudi Arabia, it didn't exist then, Matt.
Okay, but I agree. But let's call it Holy Land number 2 then. I don't know.
Where you live is where you live, and where you're from is where you're from. And sorry, wait, I want to go back. Sorry,
this is the major.
Wait,
all right, can I just make one
Pete
more
was
point?
going to say something about Haifa, and we lost it.
All right, can I just make one more point? I just want to say, like, Prophet came and he changed the Qibla, because we used to actually pray towards Jerusalem, and he came and changed it, and he said, look, your focus attention should be where the black box is. So again, as Muslims and Arab-speaking people, we should be following that sunnah, right? That is ultimately. So why are they still paying attention? I know I can appreciate if your ancestor lives there and your families live there and you've had history and upbringing there. But again, you're not following the Prophet, and neither has your parents or any of your ancestors, because they're still living there too. Do you see what I mean? So my understanding is
Matt,
history showing you different, and they're not following through history. I'm just saying, history. If you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it.
all right, Pete, what were you going to say about Haifa? We interrupted you.
Simply that the people of the Holy Land, the Israelis, even keen Zionists, are beginning to question.
Oh yeah. You said they're good. And why do you think? Why are they questioning it now after 75 years?
Well, because they're noticing it doesn't make any sense. And it's increasingly not making any sense. It's becoming more and more loopy as time goes on. So when you look, so when you look at the alternative media, the amount of whistleblowing and the amount of truth which is coming out, which is no longer being censored because there's just too much of it for the censors to suppress.
Well, look, here's someone who fought in the War of Independence on the May 23rd, 1948. Terrorists attacked the village of Tantura and massacred more than 200 Palestinians in what is known as the Tantura massacre. And a guy who was there on camera is saying, I lost count of the number of Arabs I killed in 1948. And that's maybe people like this coming out and talking about it decades later. Maybe that's part of what's making people question it.
Yeah, because I mean, in the New Testament, I think Paul. I'm not a very good Christian Bible scholar, but I think I get the impression in the New Testament. I think Paul says somewhere. What does he say? Oh yeah, Christianity is the new Israel. So it seems to me that when the revelation of Jesus replaced that of Moses or added to it, the Jews couldn't necessarily keep calling themselves the chosen people then, if Christianity is the new Israel. So I think that to be prejudiced in favor of one faith of God to the exclusion of somebody else is not very good. It's a bit.
Well, isn't that what Paul is doing then? If he's saying we are the new Israel, then the old are no longer the Israel.
Well, you know, it's just saying that a new revelation comes along, and you know, saying that you're the chosen people and no new revelation can have any importance. That's not going to help, is it? When
I mean, chosen people by following a revelation is different from chosen people to do with your race and your
but the reason
DNA.
why they say they're chosen people is because it goes back to Moses. But weren't they banished after when Moses came back and they were worshipping the golden calf? So that's when I think the God cursed them, isn't it? But until that point, weren't they the chosen people?
I would have thought they were the chosen people until Jesus appeared. 1,200 years later.
Well, I would have thought because that's when they were banished from that land, and that's where all this discrepancy started. And
well, I don't know about that. I feel that they were punished more than twice, perhaps, because they fell away from being faithful to their own faith. So at one time they were exiled to Babylon, and then Cyrus the Great of Persia allowed them to go back.
Yeah, but then doesn't that make Cyrus a Zionist for helping them to go back to rebuild the Second Temple?
Well, he wasn't. He was a Zoroastrian. The state religion.
Yeah, I agree. I'm saying he would be his beliefs would fall in line with the Zionists then, because
a good friend of mine, a good Zionist friend of mine, Joseph, said anyone who is in favor of a two-state solution is by definition a Zionist, because you want one of those states to be the Jewish state. If you believe that there should be a Jewish state, then you are a Zionist. But the Zionist movement and Theodor Herzl and the Balfour Declaration never actually spoke about a Jewish state. They spoke about a Jewish homeland. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having a homeland, because anyone can live in the homeland. You can, if you want to go and live somewhere and work there and contribute and assimilate, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you go and expel people from their home, like this guy is admitting on camera that he lost count of the number of people that he did that to, that becomes a different matter. So just as in the future, United Ireland, there will have to be a place for the Orange Order and people who feel that they have a British identity in Ireland. In the future, one state solution, there will have to be a place for Jewish people that feel that this is their Jewish homeland, but there shouldn't be a state only for one and not for another. And there are Arab Israelis that live in Israel. So why not, if you've conquered the land, if you've captured the West Bank and Gaza, okay, make it part of your country then. Give the people their citizenship and have democracy. The reason they won't do that is because if they would, then what they call the demographic threat will occur, and it will no longer be a Jewish majority state. But why not just have a binational state? You don't have to be a certain race or a certain ethnicity to live in a country, do you? Why not just call it Israel/Palestine and have everyone that lives there free and equal?
I agree. I think that in any nation, it's quite possible to imagine that all the different faith communities appreciate the value and the contribution that the other faith communities make to the whole of society, because they have different talents.
Yeah.
I mean, in Ireland, you could say.
I mean, Matt. Yeah. Sorry, go on, Pete. In Ireland,
Yep.
what?
In Ireland, you could say that the Catholics enjoy a culture where they have a very rich, magical, theatrical, dramatic tradition in the way that they live as Christians and the way they have their church services. And you could say, well, the Protestants of the Orange Order, they have a very intellectually incisive, very intelligent, very deep intellectual understanding of the gospel message, pared down to its essentials. So if they, and I think they in Derry they do, they recognize the value of each other's traditions and how each tradition has something to contribute to the whole of society. And I think when every faith community in its various different cultures and histories come together and appreciate each other and come together, unity and diversity, then you can get a united Ireland and go back to not having a green and orange flag. You could have a blue flag with a little yellow harp in the middle, like in the time of St. Patrick at St. Columba, before the schism when the Orthodox people of the East went their own way, before the Reformation.
Yeah, blue is the colour of St. Patrick, isn't it? Not
It's the colour of
green.
Ireland, yeah, originally.
Yeah. But the green and orange was meant to be Catholic and Protestant together with peace in the middle. I'm sure you know the symbolism of the flag. The orange is a reference to the Orange Order.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the unity and the camaraderie between the two sides could get even deeper and even more unified and friendly. Yeah.
I think there's probably more chance of that happening soon in Ireland than in Palestine, but there's no reason why we can't.
And in Palestine as well. If the Jews and the Muslims learned about each other's history, each other's theology, each other's way of life, culture, all the rest of it, and began to appreciate the contributions that each have made, and forgot some of their antagonism and understandable resentment and so on.
They're very
and it's not just Jews and Christians. There's many sections of Christians within that part of the world. There's Druze. There's other faiths as well. There's people of no faith. It's not a Muslim Jewish thing, and I think it gets simplified as if that's all it is. I know people like Mac like to go on about the Muslims turning away in a different Qibla. Palestine's 10% Christian. There are people that are not Muslim. There are people that are not religious at all. I think your Quranic justification for the status quo is just as wrong as any biblical justification, Mac.
Why? Yeah, but I'm saying it as in the terms. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there is Christian, but I would have thought they would have got along a lot, because I mean, Jesus' religion, who was a Jew, essentially is they kind of intertwined a little bit, right? I mean, without even Islam, like Islam even says that we're the continuation of Christianity, so it accepts Judaism and then after to be Christianity and then Islam. That's how we believe it to be anyway. So we just say we're a continuation of those religions. Why we call it the Abrahamic, but I don't see why they would have a problem with each other, Christianity and Jews. I don't really see in that Holy Land why there would be I mean, I've seen reports. I'm not gonna lie. that they've banned people even talking about Jesus recently. This is something that's quite it's mind-boggling. I can't even understand the reason for that.
I think it's because in the Christian community there is a spirit, which is a little bit like the Barbies, the followers of the Barb in the 1840s and the 1850s. There's a spirit in the church which is very powerful and can transform people's lives spiritually in a massive way. And I think a lot of people feel deep down rather frightened of that power. That's my feeling. And I think it's very potent. I don't think it's in Islam anymore after the killing of Ali and Hussein, as we discussed, as I mentioned last time.
Agreed.
And I don't think it's in the Jewish faith, because by the time Jesus arrived, the Jewish faith had become sort of hidebound with the Shariatullah, rules and regulations, in the Talmud. So I don't think the Jews have it. But I think the Barbies had it, and that's why the Barbie faith did what it did for those 6 years, 1844 to 1850, in Persia.
I mean, so
Cool,
he does come out with some good stuff. The Bob, I've obviously he kind of if he's accepting Ali and talking about, like, I can't dispute obviously some of the things he's obviously realized and saying, but I don't know. I still feel to infiltrate and to win over certain minds, especially in that region, especially if they believe in Ali, this is the way to go about it. You see what I'm saying? Like,
what's the way to go about it? Sorry,
it's a form of a way to infiltrate Islam, the Shia. I mean, he's not undermining the Shia belief at all. He's no. Obviously, but he's saying it's a continuation. The thing is, it's difficult to accept him as the Mahdi, say.
Yeah, because he's not satisfying the prophecies literally. He's satisfying them, if at all, in a metaphorical way, which doesn't necessarily cut ice with people when they expect.
You say metaphorical, but it can't be, because there have been even in 1979, the Kaaba was held hostage because someone tried to play out the verses or the hadith that was in place, saying that he's going to show up in front of the in front of the Kaaba. There's a foot of Abraham, the supposed footprints of Abraham. It's called the Maqam Ibrahim. Yeah, they said that he's going to look like this. His name is this. So basically, they concluded that they found someone that day who ticked all the criteria in the hadith, meaning, and he's standing exactly where he was. They predicted he'll be standing when they call him out, and that's where he was. So they literally played out all the hadith. So you say metaphorical, but it can't be, because it's literal. They by pinpointing you from when and how and what he looks like, his family name, his father's name, like they've pinpointed everything. So you say that, but I can't believe it to be metaphorical when I've been told it's physical. Like it's. Do you see what I mean? Like.
Well, I don't know it in enough detail. I suppose I believe, because not on a great deal of evidence. I think I decided to believe because Jesus said, "By their fruits you shall know them." And when I saw that the early Barbies had given their lives rather than recant their faith in the same spirit as the early Christians under Diocletian, I thought that's pretty convincing. And when I heard stories about this Islamic scholar Mirza Abul Fazl being taught the Barbie faith by a blacksmith, I thought that's the same spirit as the Gospels of the Acts of the Apostles in the New Testament. So on the basis of that, just the excitement of possibly having discovered that the return of Christ was 130 years before, not 25 years in the future, in the year 2000, just set me on fire with the excitement of the possibility. So I started searching and looking into the Baha'i faith for a whole year with great energy, and I found nothing to put me off.
So again, if the Bab is accepting the Shia faith or the Shia belief in the Hadith to go with it, he's still contradicting his position, because it's been predicted that not only the Mahdi is going to come, but the Mahdi, Isa is going to pray behind the Mahdi. Yeah, and this is the one thing that unites the Sunni and the Shias together. This one belief, right? So ultimately, the Bab did not even fall under this category. So there's no way on earth that they are.
There's a broad spectrum of belief, Mac. Not everyone accepts.
I agree.
The Mahdi.
This is the one belief that unites the Sunni and the Shia is the return of the Mahdi. Now,
not necessarily,
and how he returns may differ. It may differ,
not necessarily.
But
Ibn Khaldun, the North African scholar, said that Jesus is the Mahdi. He said, "La Mahdi illa Isa." There's no Mahdi other than Jesus. There's been people that don't think there will be a Mahdi. They say this is something that's come from Zoroastrianism into the religion. It's only from the Hadith. It's not mentioned in the Quran. But yes, you're right. The majority do accept that these figures will come at some point in the future. If you are a believer and God is outside time, then it doesn't matter whether they've already come or they're going to come one day. You accept them. If they came in the past, well, that's who they were. If they're to come in the future, then they're to come in the future. If Pete thinks they've come already and he's wrong, I'm sure God will forgive him. If you think they're not here yet and you're still waiting for them, I'm sure God will forgive you.
My background belief would be that, first of all, we say Mahdi's in occultation, and as Muslims we know that Jesus was ascended, so therefore he never died, so he's alive. So
but if we just focus on these differences, then I think we're never gonna get over it.
Prophet of our time, even right now, as Muslims, we should see Jesus as because our belief would be that he hasn't passed away. So ultimately, if we believe he's in heaven and alive, we should believe that he's one of the people, like he's the prophet of our time, right? But he's not appearing, but he's in occultation as well.
What if he came as a thief in the night in Victorian times?
Well, that's exactly that the Bible verse, isn't it? That's exactly what the Bible tells us. He's gonna. Jesus' return will be like a thief.
Yeah. So it might have already happened.
You're very, very right. That's very true.
But I found a fascinating passage by Baha'u'llah where he says, the revelation of God has most surely been repeated. And I just wonder if maybe the Bab and Baha'u'llah might come a second time before 2852, which is the earliest that the next manifestation comes. So maybe both the Bab and Baha'u'llah appear as different people, but essentially the same message twice in the same dispensation. And we've experienced one in Victorian times. Maybe there's another appearance, but that's a bit of a stretch, and it's a bit very way out. So I wouldn't believe myself if it's just a possibility. But I just wonder what Baha'u'llah meant by the revelation of God has most surely been repeated. It's probably got so much more down to earth.
Can I ask if you've looked into Baha'u'llah, did he say after him or after the Bab and then there's Baha'u'llah? After Baha'u'llah, who else is going to come? Because usually
he said that should anyone claim a revelation direct from God ere, which means before, the expiration of a full 1,000 years, such a man is assuredly a lying impostor. And Shoghi Effendi, I think I found somewhere that he said that dates from the Sia Chal, which is when Baha'u'llah's revelation started in 1852, which means that the earliest the next messenger can come is 2852, which is about 800 years.
Couldn't 1,000 days be a year or something like that? Well, or a year is
also
a day is 1,000 years.
So can we go academic with this? Can I go academically? Because basically, if you look at Isaac Newton, he was a devout. He basically died a virgin because that's how devout of a Christian he was, and he calculated Jesus's return in the year, if I'm not mistaken, 2060. So that to me makes sense. I mean,
Isaac Newton.
Isaac Newton.
What does he know about the Bible?
What does he know? He died a virgin, bruv. He died a virgin because of it.
He was a very deep Bible scholar. He counted his Bible beliefs far more passionately than his beliefs about physics and mathematics.
Very true.
Wow.
I'm telling you, Julian, he died. This is a weird fact. Like, for me, because I would have thought, being a genius, you'd want to have offsprings, but he died a virgin. This is to me was a bit weird. Like, you have good genes. Like, you're obviously a smart guy. Why wouldn't you want to pass on your legacy?
Wow. Yeah, I don't know.
Other scholars have worked out the time of the return as being 1844, which is when the Bab declared himself.
But of course, the Bab was not the return of Christ, nor did he claim to be.
Well, Christ
depends what you mean by
Hold
the
on, Pete. Go on, Pete. Let Pete in.
If you see that the word Christ has the same meaning as Messiah, it simply means the promised one, the appointed one, the anointed one. You could say that every messenger of God is a Christ, albeit with different degrees of intensity. So therefore, if the Christ Spirit returned in the person of Muhammad, as in, I think the Greek word is paraclete, which means the comforter, which I understand, is that right? Similar meaning to the root word of Muhammad or Ahmad, comforter. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you're right.
But if Muhammad was brought a divine revelation with the Quran, that would make him a manifestation of the Christ Spirit in a sense, like Moses, and then the Bab and Baha'u'llah. So that would make sense of Jesus saying to Peter, on this rock I'll build my church, and later you're going to deny me 3 times before the dawn of the new day. So even if the Bab didn't claim to be the return of Christ, nevertheless, as a manifestation of God, you could say, well, a manifestation of God is virtually a very similar title to being a messenger of God, or an apostle of God, or a Christ of God, a Messiah of God, or just a messenger of God. So all these different titles apply to all the messengers, I think. In the Quran, Muhammad, Gabriel on behalf of God through Muhammad, says that do not make any distinction, and Baha'u'llah says the same thing, don't make any distinctions between the various messengers and their different missions, or their different names, their different qualities, and so on. In their spiritual state, they are all identical. They have the same spirit. So, they do have differences, different names, different designations, different titles, different missions, and so on. But in their spirit, they all bring the eternal revelation from God, albeit with different teachings for different states of mankind. So, to me, they're all the same, in a sense, spiritually.
That's interesting. So you're making the case for the Christ being the Bab, or you could interpret. I mean, Christ is the Greek word for Messiah, the Hebrew word meaning the anointed one, which Muslims and Christians regard Jesus as. You're saying that title can be applied to
all
other.
all? Yeah, I would have thought so. That's just me, though. Other Bible scholars or Quranic scholars may have different or more detailed or more accurate opinions, maybe.
And do not make a distinction between the different prophets.
Well, in a sense, the Quran makes a distinction, because it says in the Quran that we, talking, the royal we, God talking, God is saying that he did not. God strengthened him with the Holy Spirit, Jesus. So it could be that on this earthly plane, Jesus manifested more of the power of God in a spiritual sense than Muhammad did, although Muhammad's revelation in the Quran is much bigger than what was given in the gospel. So
I don't think Muhammad had the same like miracles as Jesus. Like Jesus had powerful miracles. Like apparently, I don't know if you heard this, Julian, as well, but Mary giving birth instead of 9 months, 9 hours, and then going into
a miracle is for the people there at the time. So what? If you don't see it, what good is it?
Yeah, but he brought dead people back to life. I mean, Muhammad.
Yeah, but I could claim I did that. If I don't see it, what good is that miracle?
But if the Quran says that God strengthened Jesus with the Holy Spirit and made his message more powerful, you could say, well, that's not only manifested in miracles, it's manifested in the power of his words to transform people's lives and give them that spiritual transformation. You know, the Christians call it being born again.
That's more of a miracle than someone being brought back to life 2,000 years ago.
Exactly, yeah. To transform someone's character so that their way of life goes upside down and they become.
So you're telling me when Jesus gave sight to the blind means that he helped them on the right path, right? Helped them to see correctly. Is that what it means?
To me, healing people physically with sicknesses or doing miracles, that's right, like a symbol of his power. But the real power is spiritual transformation. The real power is to inspire someone who's leading a sordid, sinful, criminal life. And I remember hearing stories like this, the Crossing the Switchblade from New York or San Francisco, wherever it was. You know, the power of a revelation from God to transform someone's life so that they become morally and spiritually completely reborn. That to me is the real miracle, not, you know, doing magic tricks, so to speak. And I think the power of Muhammad and Jesus to do that was immense. But maybe Jesus was able to have this power to inspire people to completely reform their lives in a more obvious, more powerful way than Muhammad, but simply because, as the Quran says, God strengthened him with the Holy Spirit. Now, Muhammad probably had the same innate spirit as Jesus, but his mission was not to manifest it as directly and obviously as Jesus did. Because if he had done, maybe they would have executed him after 3 years like they did to Jesus. And his mission was to stay alive for how many, was it 23 years of the Quran? To rebuild Arabia and to turn Arabia into a great nation.
Oh, yeah.
Right. He needed more time, and he needed more time to recite the Quran. You know, 114 chapters of stuff, whereas you could possibly put the fragmentary comments of Jesus in the New Testament into perhaps 5 or 6 pages. So each messenger has their own mission and their own qualities, and I think Muhammad and Jesus are different, and they have strengths in their own way that the other don't have, because their missions were different at different times in history.
So this is the thing. Even Baha'u'llah should accept the fact that there's not going to be another messenger, and only Jesus is meant to return. This is sealed. This is what Muhammad's message was, and the only thing that the Mahdi is going to come is unite. It's supposed to unite the Muslims ultimately together, but really and truly, the final message, the final messenger, the final prophet is Muhammad. Now, Jesus is not a final because he was there before Muhammad, so he's just returning as promised. Yeah. So ultimately, there is no other messengers. As promised is the return of the Messiah or the anointed one, but that is what it ultimately is. So this is why I can, in so many aspects, break down why Baha'u'llah and the Bab cannot fall under any category of prophecy.
What if prophets and messengers aren't the same thing? Is it Nabi and Rasul?
They mean Nabi. Rasul means messenger. Yeah, Rasulullah, messenger of God. Yeah, Nabi means prophet.
Does a prophet give prophecies about the future?
Okay, so what? Nostradamus is a prophet then?
Well, no, prophets from God.
Well, okay, so
prophets bringing a new religion. So if there was a prophetic cycle where everybody, all the messengers in this time frame were prophets, in that they were prophesying in the future, the last day, the day of judgment, the day of reckoning, the day of resurrection, the day of God, or in Jesus' terms, in the Lord's Prayer, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now, if all these prophets in this time frame, say from Adam to the Bab, were making predictions or prophecies, or they were prefiguring what was going to happen in the last day. And if you look at the Quran, it's full of stuff about the last day, the day of resurrection, the day of reckoning, the day of judgment. So if Muhammad was the last prophet, maybe he was the last messenger before the last day, and that after Muhammad, whatever happens next, that's going to be the last day. Now, that's what Baha'is believe. We believe that when the Bab and Baha'u'llah came, they initiated, they brought with them the last day, which Muhammad had been prophesying. And he was the last one, the seal of the prophets. And that's what we believe is the meaning of that. We could be wrong, but that's how we understand it. And to me, it's consistent with the Quranic text.
Yeah, look, like I say, Pete, God is outside of time, and you're very modest to say you could be wrong. I don't think it matters if we're right or wrong. You believe in the Mahdi and the return of Christ, and you accept it to be the Bab and Baha'u'llah. Other people are still waiting for it. Christians are still waiting for Jesus. There are Jews that are still waiting for their Messiah. You would say, well, you missed him 2,000 years ago. But if you're still looking for the same thing, the same essence, I think we can accept it, even though we have different opinions about who it was or wasn't.
Maybe they might accept Jesus' second coming.
Hang to us saying, I'm wondering why you are discussing this ethereal nonsense with such serious discourse. Please discuss the solutions to the Palestinian plight. Right, Hang to in the description, click the link and you'll get on the screen, or you can just do your voice only like Mac is, and you can tell us all about the Palestinian plight as you're such an expert on it. Click on the screen, mate, if you've got any balls. Or are you just a armchair pundit?
Well, was it keyboard
keyboard warrior? Yeah, keyboard warrior could be. Come on, Hang to her. Let's see what you got. See what your view. We can talk about Palestine all night, but I mean, really, I thought Palestine's a religious conflict, isn't it? When Jesus comes, he's going to sort all these problems out, or as Pete says, he's already been, and we're in the process of sorting them out now. That's why you've got people from different backgrounds talking on the same screen.
There's a wonderful verse in the Quran where he says, I will tell you of all your disputes.
Yeah.
When the Bab comes, perhaps, or Baha'u'llah.
I will tell you of all your disputes.
Did the Bab tell us about the disputes?
Yeah, the Bayan. His main book was called the Bayan, which I understand means the explanation.
Yeah.
So all the mysteries of the Quran, he explored a lot of them and explained them.
Well, the Quran describes itself as a tabiyannan li kulli shay, the explanation of all things. But your belief is that there's been another explanation, an update, a further one.
Well, when it talks about the book, and I've noticed this with Muslims, that when they're quoting from the Quran and it's referring to the book, they say it refers to the Quran. But how is that so? If the people of the book include the Christians with the gospel and the Jews with the Torah. Now, if the book is not only the Quran, but it's the Torah and the gospel as well, why wouldn't the book of God also be other authentic divine revelations? Maybe the essence of the Buddhist scriptures, the essence of the Hindu scriptures, the book of the Qaim when he comes, or in other words, the Bayan, 130 years ago, 170 years ago, or the Akdash from Baha'u'llah, the descent to Ruhullah. So it could be that when it's referring to the book, and the book is complete, the book doesn't leave anything out. It's not just referring to the Quran; it's referring to the whole of divine revelation and reliable guidance. Secularism.
books, yeah.
Baha'u'llah says something wonderful about secularism. He says, he's talking to one of his followers called Salman. He says, "Warn, O Salman, the beloved of the one true God, not to view with too critical an eye the writings and sayings of men. Rather regard them with the spirit of loving kindness and open mindedness."
Well, secular is an interesting word. If you've read the dollar bill, which I'm sure you have, it says Nouveau Ordo Seclorum.
Yeah.
New World Order or secular order. Secular means worldly. And of course, Jesus was offered the world and he rejected it.
What profiteth a man that he should gain the whole world but lose his own soul?
That's right. Hang Tuah is saying you do not need to be an award-winning movie director to be a film critic. That's for sure. Are you not gonna, is that you bottling it, Hang Tuah? You too scared? And you think we're going to
It's a bit challenging.
humiliate you online? Peter Bills is saying New World Order. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we all want
band.
a new world order of the 99%, not a new world order of the 1%. I think that's a big issue at the moment.
Yeah. Who are the 99%?
Everybody else.
We are.
Yeah, us.
Sean Drew is saying, "What's a soul?" Well, we talk a lot about our souls on this show for some reason. It's late on a Friday night.
A little ball of white light that has no mass, no energy, no existence that can be discovered by a materialistic scientist.
The ruh is the soul, I believe.
Therefore, the materialists say it's a fiction; it doesn't exist. What if it does anyway? Even if it doesn't have any matter or energy to it.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be. It's a concept. Yeah. Exactly.
No. But if it's real, it has reality, it has power. But it doesn't have any matter or energy.
It doesn't have to be. Something doesn't have to be physical to be real.
Yeah.
Peter Bills is saying 99% are not the WEF and the.
I concur. I
and the
agree
WHO.
with you wholeheartedly. I do not believe in the WEF and the WHO at all. I think they're a load of charlatans.
Thank God.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have our best interests at heart.
I don't think they do.
It's basically well, they just want to depopulate the agenda. Is what it is.
And they want to control everything as well.
By the way, WEF want to introduce this whole new system where, well, forget the digital currency, but they want us a new way of life, shall we say? Eat bugs. They want us to start eating bugs. That's going to be quite. They want us to come off the meat. Like I
think the most disturbing thing to me about them is the possibility. But I think when you join the dots, you think, well, this is what they want, but there's no proof yet.
No, they say it. They're saying it, though.
What they want is to neuter and neutralize all spiritual and religious impulses. And I think that is potentially lethal to the whole human race. Because although religion manipulated by political interests has been lethal in the past, but it doesn't have to be like that in the future. And I think to get rid of religion and to suppress everybody.
I disagree. Sorry, Pete. I disagree. Getting rid of religion. You say that religion was designed to control man. I'm not disputing that. But what it is, I
didn't say that.
No, but I'm saying that, and I'm saying some people need controlling, and I tell you why. If we don't allow it, now we got the drag queens going into like primary schools and flaunting their parts and bits and bobs unnecessarily. But this is what I'm saying. It'll go back to the land of Gomorrah, Sodom and Gomorrah. So religion sometimes is necessary because it controls society to some extent, to some degree. It puts us, it puts a sort of level of decorum. Yeah. So I believe it might not be, but again, how it gets infiltrated or that's a problem. That's where it can be affected, and it can we got to get like a religion that's pure in essence. Now, again, I'm not trying to be biased, but when we look at Zoroastrianism, the motto, I mean, that's basic. Good thought, good speech, or pure thought, pure speech, and pure action. This is what we need to, like, essentially a religion based on that would be better. Not something too complicated, not trying to create difference amongst each other, or who said what, how they said it, or what color dress they were wearing. But do you see what I mean? It's that's what I believe would help. But ultimately, religion is necessary in our lives, and not only that, it gives us hope. It gives us that every day waking up, we have someone to talk to. I mean, our problems, you see what I'm saying? So religion, I think, is essential. It's one of our traits that we have to. This is why if we're not praying to the real God, we always had rituals sacrificing to fake gods and worshipping statues. So we have this in us as humans. It's something innate inside of us just makes us want to probably pray, I guess.
I agree with you, and I think to give people injections, like Rudolf Steiner, who died in 1925, he said that some of the scientists are trying to find a vaccine.
Listen, don't mention the war. I mentioned it once, but I think I got away with it all right.
I'm getting all the time. I mentioned the global civil war, which started in Korea in 1950 all the time. I'm getting away with it. So I think some of the scientists, the materialistic scientists, are trying to eradicate religion by trying to invent a vaccine. Which
I wonder what Pete's saying. We can't do it, Pete. We can't do it. We can't do that one. Is he there? Oh, we lost you there for a minute, Pete. Just got to be very careful that we don't say something that gets us taken off air. Climate change is real. Australia is experiencing floods unprecedented in history and soon bushfires. Okay, that's from Hang Tua. I think there's some climate change debate going on in the chat here. Hang Tua is saying religion gives you hope. Yes. Jump on, Hang Tua. I'm disappointed that you haven't taken up the challenge. And,
it would have been nice. It would have been nice to see. Yeah, got to.
What's the VAR? What's the VAR? Oh, the VAR.
Don't mention the VAR. Yeah. Look, guys, we're nearly on the hour mark. This was only a bonus one anyway. I'm going to wrap it up, but we will go again on Monday night, 8 p.m. That's the regular slot. And if there's anything anyone in the chat wants to mention something that we should talk about, just put it in the comments. Hang to it saying, ask those Holocaust survivors about asking for God help when they were herded into the gas chambers. Okay, look, we know bad things happen. We know bad things happen. We know horrific things happen. That doesn't, like, I don't think that negates the idea of a God. It just negates the idea of what you think God should be. But if life is a test, then there's going to be all kinds of horrors, isn't there? And it's our responsibility to struggle to make sure there are no more Holocausts. Ever.
I think there's a mystery somewhere in there where God seems to refuse to take away our free will. So
exactly,
he allows us to do horrendous things sometimes because he won't take away our free will.
Hang To is saying thank you nevertheless. No problem, Hang To. That's what I like. Politeness, even though I attempted to call you out on here, you've left me with a polite and respectful message. I appreciate that. And you're welcome here anytime. All opinions are welcome on this platform. That's what we're here for, open discussion and debate. Thanks, Alpha L and Pete, and of course, don't forget Mac.
Pleasure. It's lovely to be able to engage in conversation with people.
Exactly. There you go. Mac's coming on the TV to bow out. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, Monday night, 8 p.m. Inshallah, see you there.
Take care.
Bye for now.